right, it's time to make bread. I've got my scale and my big bowl and my flours and my salt all set up. So here's my leave-in. I let it sit last night with this tea towel over it, and it's also got a elastic, just because the beeswax isn't quite as sealing as plastic. So it's bubbly, it's raised, it hasn't really sunk yet, any of that kind of stuff. It's been, I don't know, around 9 hours right now. So first thing first, we do a float test. So let's go to the sink. So we've got a little bowl, and I'm going to take my spoon into my leave-in. Doesn't really matter how much, but I'm just getting a little bit here into there, into my bowl, and it floats. 100% it floats. That means it's ready for bread. Okay, so making bread now. Sorry, please excuse my shoddy camera work. Very professional. The big bowl is where I'm gonna mix this all up. So I've got a big bowl, it's on my scale. I do this all by weight. So first up, I need to add 700 grams of warm water. Now, warm is not very hot, and I made myself some coffee earlier, so my kettle is a little bit too hot. I've got about 100 grams so far of fairly hot water, and now I'm adding to the 700 mark. Most likely, I'll check temperature-wise. I'm getting up. Can be a little bit more warm. You want this to feel kind of like your skin temperature, maybe slightly warmer, but you don't want it to get too hot. I'm going for 700 grams. I went over there a little bit, not a whole lot, but I did go over a little bit. I'm going to take my spoon that I've got here in the leave-in and just take a little bit of that out, just because with the flour that I use, it's better if I've got a little bit of extra water in there. The 11 grams is a bit much. 4 grams is good. There we go. So 700 grams of water. Now I'm scooping in 200 grams of my leave-in. There we go. And this too, if you're a little bit off on the numbers of how much leave-in you add, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Next up, you really want to mix this with your hands. So nice clean hands, but your hands have natural bacteria and yeast on them that this sourdough starter uses to help to make more life in your bread. So you want to mix that up with your hand. And this just disperses that leave-in into the water, so it's making sure there's no clumps that are going to get more or less active. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to wash my hands. So you're gonna have leftover leave-in. You might use it there are lots of recipes to use it for, pancakes or English muffins, things like that, but don't get too stressed about it. You'll have a bit of extra. So now that I've got my 900 grams in here of water mixed with leave-in, I'm going to add 1,000 grams of flour. I'm doing 100 of whole wheat, roughly, and then 900 of bread flour. I like using K2 Milling. They're a local company, no affiliation, anything. That's just really good flour, very active. So 18, and oh, big chunk, but that's okay. Still kept me under. There we go. So there's my flour. Now move this here. I'm going to move this off of the scale and mix it. So with hands again. So I'm just getting in there. It's a little bit messy at first because it's full and it's very separate, but getting this all mixed in. While I'm doing this, my coffee is sitting. So I do this first thing in the morning. You can reverse this and feed your leave-in first thing in the morning so that you can make your bread in the evening. But I'm more of a get things done in the morning kind of girl. So, okay, you can see it's starting to come together now, and it is sticky. It should be. This should not really look like dough that you would make flour or make bread, sorry, out of. It's sticky. So I just want to make sure that everything gets mixed in. It's all wet. All right, that's pretty good there, I think. Get as much of this off of me as I can. Okay. So again, I need to wash my hands, and then I cover this and let it sit for 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, it has been 40 minutes. So now I'm uncovering this. Looks kind of exactly the same as it did. Really sticky mess. And I'm gonna re-zero my scale. Good. And we are adding 50 grams of warm water. There we go, 50. And 20 grams of sea salt. Wow, that's almost perfect. Just as I run out. There we go. Okay, got that added. Now, move this out of the way. We mix. So, hands again, because now it's gonna start to turn into dough. So at the moment, it just feels kind of sticky. The water is not really helping. So you gotta work to incorporate it all in. And it starts to come together pretty quick. It starts to feel like dough pretty quick. There we go. I'm just giving it a thorough mix because the salt I can feel with my knuckles is more in one area. So I want to get that all spread out. The salt stops the rise from happening. So you need some in here to make it workable as bread. But we want it to be nicely evenly mixed. Okay, so there we go. It's still a little bit sticky, but now it looks like dough. I'm gonna wash my hands quick. And now we cover it, and I'm gonna put it in the oven. So turning on the oven light. So the light is on in the oven, nothing else. That should be enough to give it a little bit of heat. And she's gonna sit in there for 30 minutes, and I'm gonna bring it out again. Okay, so it's been a half hour. So I'm pulling this out of the oven, and it looks pretty much the same as it did, but I'm doing stretch, fold in, stretch. So it's starting to get a little bit more stringy. It's a little bit sticky, but that's okay. Stretch, fold in. So this just helps to tighten the gluten back up. There, just like that. And then we cover it and put it back in the oven for another half hour. So each time that I do this, it starts to feel lighter, almost like it's more airy. And the dough is growing. You're getting more of it. And when you do this stretch and fold, it gets tight as at the end. So you can probably see like I don't have as much pull as those first few. All right, an hour in. All right, so we are coming up on, this is the 2.5 hour mark. So look how big things are there. And let me just set this down. Do that same stretch and fold. It's very airy. It's quite light, this dough. And I think this is going to be the last one. So I'm content with how much it's risen. It is puffy, it is bigger, and this is going to be the last time I stick it back in the oven. Next time we're going to put it on the counter. All right, so timer's going off. And that means 20 minutes have passed and it is time to take the lid off. As you can see, it's pretty big. It actually did hit the lid. Then we cook it again for, oops, not 10, 18 minutes. All right, here we go. I've got nice, big, fluffy sourdough dough. It has done all of it stretched and kneading. It's about 3 hours in. So now I am going to dump it on the counter. Cleaned up the counter, dump this all out, and dust it with some flour. So I'm just kind of giving it a light dusting here, making sure that it's not going to be too sticky. So wipe that all in. And then I'm going to make a little bit of extra flour puddles off to the side here because I'm going to flip it over in a moment. Then I'm using my knife, my pastry knife, and I am cutting my bench scraper. So here I've now got a floured outside. This is going to become the crust. I'm going to use this to scoop it and flip it over. So this inside part is quite sticky. So here I'm just kind of spreading things out a little. And here's where we start to shape the dough. So we'll do this one at a time. I'll just move this out of the way so you can see one a little bit better. Okay, here's what we do. We take from the outside, pull it in. Take from the outside, pull it in. I do this maybe like 5 or 6 times in total. Pull it in, pull it in, pull it in. It's kind of like folding. And now here, I can just tell I need a little bit more flour because things are a little bit sticky here. Now I flip it over and I have this is kind of my own technique. A lot of people will show you different ways of doing this, but I like to kind of tuck under, lift and twist, tuck under, lift and twist, tuck, lift, twist. Good, and there's a bit of a sticky spot there. I'm gonna give a little more flour, tuck, tuck. So this is just getting it as tightly into a ball as I can get it. And then I'm going to repeat that with second one, same thing, stretch, fold, getting this into as tight of a ball as I can get it. And then again here, I'm gonna give a little extra flour, flip her over, and that scoop, tuck sort of system. All right, so these are now starting to turn into actual bread. So here, covering it, and I'm gonna let it sit on the counter for a half hour. All right, so the bread has sat on the counter for a half hour, and now uncover it and see it, like it flattened a little bit out. Not a whole lot, but a little bit out. It's held together pretty well. All of that is good. What I'm gonna do here now is I'm gonna use my scraper and I'm gonna flip this baby over and kind of spread it just a little bit with my fingers to get it a little bit more flat. And from there, I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I did the first time around. Pull into the middle, pull into the middle. And I'm trying to get as many of these as I can to get this into as tight of a ball as I can get it, which kind of seems like it's gonna be there. And then again, I'm grabbing a bit more flour here to do my tuck under, roll around, tuck under, and make sure it's nothing sticky on the outside. It's got pretty much a crust forming now. Now, I have a choice. I'm gonna put this into, so I've prepped this bowl with a mix of rice and white flour lining. So I'm gonna drop this little baby into there, cover it up, and then same thing with my other loaf. Stretch and flatten it out just a little, and then fold into the middle, fold into the middle. And once I get it nice and tight, again, I'm just gonna soak up any flour that's on the counter here to do that tuck under rounding. And then again, I've got another bowl. So here's where you get a choice. If you want to make bread today, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to return these just as they are in these bowls into my oven that has the light on. If instead I wanted to bake this bread tomorrow, I would stick it in the fridge. So in there, and now they sit in there for 3 to 4 hours. I'll see you there. All right, welcome back. 3 hours later. This has been sitting in the oven and you can see it has risen a whole bunch. It's even kind of split a little bit, which is telling me like it is time to get that in the oven. So I have preheated my oven to 500 with my cast iron in it. Now I'm going to flip this out into that cast iron. So I'm just really doing a flip, drop, and here I use my kitchen scissors, but you can use a knife. You can do all kinds of fancy things. I'm just gonna cut a whole bunch of slits in the top of this so it can vent. If you don't do this, you might end up with like a bubble explosion and some unevenness in your bread. So lots of little slits in it there. Lid back on, and in the oven, we can drop the temperature now down to 450 and 20 minutes like that. All right, so timer's going off, and that means 20 minutes have passed and it is time to take the lid off. As you can see, it's pretty big. It actually did hit the lid. Then we cook it again for, oops, not 10, 18 minutes. All right, thank you. So cooked. We've had 18 minutes now without the lid on, and here's our bread. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay. You're gonna want to get this out. I just kind of use it's stuck a little, usually doesn't. Lifter, let it sit somewhere, and then this goes back in the oven to do the exact same thing with the second loaf. That is how you make bread. Enjoy!